Hey folks, BlackCross here, and welcome to a new series that I am putting out. This is going to be a little bit of it's going to be an ongoing series. I've always wanted to have an ongoing series, like a continuation, one that will never end until my life ends, or at least until the YouTube ceases to exist at this point. But that's beside the point. The point is that I have always wanted to do a small series. And this one I'm going to call Just a Thought. Just a Thought. These are just going to be like random topics that I've either run across or like topics that I've found on the internet, or just things that I want to go ahead and just kind of brush off of the grapevine and stuff. So to kind of start off the opening of this particular series, I want to go ahead and talk about, because the date that this video is going to be released, the video itself is going to be released on the date from where it's exactly 13 weeks until Kingdom Hearts 3 comes out. 13 weeks. I want you to think about that, because that's the insane part, is that we are literally like within grabbing reaches. Twitter in particular had a lot of people basically talking about this, you know. Not so much 13 weeks, but I've had like, there was one person that made a comment of like, it is exactly 100 days until Kingdom Hearts 3 comes out, which means we are now in the 2 digits of the countdown, which is insane. Cynical from the Gamers Joint posted up on his Twitter account that it's been like over 2,000 days or something. I think it's 2,000. Let me check just to make certain, because I forgot. It's like, is it 2,000? It's like I don't remember all of a sudden. Okay, 1 second. Where are you at, Cynical? There you are. Okay. He posted a lot of stuff, so it's like, okay. Let's see. Where is that? Here we go. Fun fact. It's a total of 2,059 days from the point of when Kingdom Hearts 3 was first revealed back in June of 2013. It is being released worldwide in January 29th, 2019. We've done a lot of waiting time. Kudos to each and every one of you, not too far now, with a clapping emoji. So, yeah. But yeah, it is literally like, when you think about it, it is like within the realm of thinking of like, yeah, we haven't really had that long of a time span since its original announcement. But at the same time, there's actually a lot of stuff that I've had kind of going through my mind in the process of all this. And that's the fact that Kingdom Hearts 3 and how it's going to do once it finally does get released. And I think a lot of people hadn't really went through this thought. Mostly because, you know, you have two sides of the fan base of Kingdom Hearts. You have those that's been with the series either from since Kingdom Hearts 2 or Kingdom Hearts 1 for that matter. You have that particular side effect thing. There's like people who have been with the series from early beginnings. And then you have people who hadn't been on Kingdom Hearts since Kingdom Hearts 2 for that matter. And I will say that my brother used to be on that side of the team, because of the fact that all the side stories and stuff. But ever since we did our Let's Play series of Kingdom Hearts, Delmar has been more excited about Kingdom Hearts 3 than he has ever been the past couple of years. And I'm glad that I was able to get him excited for Kingdom Hearts 3. You know, despite the fact that the story is a little bit complicated at times and stuff like that, the games themselves are far more enjoyable than what the story itself tells. So that's always the best part, is the fact that if you love the series so much, you're willing to kind of skim through some of the rough patches of the game itself. And Kingdom Hearts is no exception. The story is very convoluted, very complicated. But there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind Kingdom Hearts itself. Keep in mind that it also has like titles of Disney coexist within the Final Fantasy franchises into creating a crossover event such as Kingdom Hearts. So when you've got like different ideals, like different things that goes on within Kingdom Hearts, you have to consider the fact that this is Disney we're talking about. They can mold reality however way they feel like they need to, But then you've also got Tetsuki Nomura, who tries to make things so far more convoluted than it actually needs to be. Nomura is a pain in the ass is what he is. But that aside, I just wanted to go ahead and kind of talk about a few things that might potentially hurt Kingdom Hearts 3. Now keep in mind, this isn't more or less of a discouragement. This is just a saying to keep in mind, to keep your expectations low when it comes to Kingdom Hearts 3. I think the best, because I mean, with all the stuff we've seen thus far, which I'll get to that in a little bit, but the best way we can look forward to Kingdom Hearts 3 is to keep our expectations low, as best as we can possibly can. And that's harder said than done, I will admit. That's actually harder to do when you consider the fact that, yeah, this is like the most anticipated game in the history in a long time. But there are a couple things that I think needs to be said in order to help make the game a little bit better for everyone and to keep their expectations at the mere minimum. So the first thing that comes to mind is the fact that there is a particular trend when it comes to the news media of Kingdom Hearts. Now, this isn't everybody, but this is sort of like certain areas and stuff like that. For example, the most common one that I have seen is that it has been 12 years since the last Kingdom Hearts entry. Now, let me rephrase that phrase. It has been 12 years since Kingdom Hearts 2. Now, if they were to say that, I would not be twitching nearly as bad as I would be right now. But I've seen this phrase a lot. Whenever I see the news article title saying the phrase, it's been 12 years since the last Kingdom Hearts entry, I'm just looking at it as like, you guys aren't even doing your research, are you? You have no idea what you're doing. But then again, depending on the newscasts themselves, they have their own theory of like how to deliver news in their own retrospective. This is going back on like old ideals, you know. We're talking like ideals that have changed since their original ideals per se. Now, let's look into like certain game franchises. You know, you've got Mario itself. You know, he's the basic Italian plumber. There's not much in terms of story. You don't technically have to play every game just to get it, because everything isn't really connected. So there's really no reason to do that. I would argue that you don't technically have to play, what's another game to kind of go into? Uncharted. I don't think you have to play every game just to get the basic concept of the main story per se, because technically it's, imagine like jumping into like Uncharted 3 and really enjoying it. You can jump into 1 and 2 and not have to be confused as to like the story and stuff, like who is this, who is that, what's going on here and stuff like that, because technically they don't really connect. Now, I am willing to admit that I am wrong on that assumption, because there are certain characters, but then again, these certain characters don't get introduced since the first game. You know, you have Chloe, who basically got introduced in the second one, and she is actually seen in the third one. Wrecker, she kind of gets topped off towards like the first half of the game, but still to a point, she's not really a main staple. You then have Sully. You don't technically need to know everything about Sully just to get to the bare minimum of the story. So it's like, it's not as crucial. With Kingdom Hearts, however, Nomura has basically made it to where everything is literally almost as important as the next. And now the development team has basically went on an argument and everything like that. It's like, technically you don't have to play every Kingdom Hearts game to get the story and stuff like that. And at first, I would argue with you on that one. I would agree that technically you don't have to play through every Kingdom Hearts game in order to get the story. However, there are certain games that says otherwise. Now, let's look at like games like Chain of Memories, 358/2 Days, and Recoded. These particular games in particular, I would argue, are the least important when it comes to the franchise. And I say least important because of what they do. Let's talk about Chain of Memories and 358/2 Days. These two particular games, by the end of the game themselves, they literally make it as though as if it never happened. Like, Sora gets his memories rearranged to where he forgets everything that happens in Castle Oblivion. And then you have days where as soon as Xion gets erased, everyone forgets that she even existed. So, arguably, you would say that those don't really matter. If you went with that logic of the fact that technically you forget everything that happens, so therefore they're not chronologically important. So therefore, yeah, they're not really a major deal. And then you have Recoded, where basically the main process story, and it could have been easy to explain in like a small 30-minute part or something like that, whereas like Mickey discovers that there's a secret entry in the journal, and he tries to figure out what it means. He finally figures it out through using a computer and stuff like that, and data analysts, and basically he discovers that there are friends that are still trapped in darkness, being that of Aqua, Finn, and Terra. You could have easily done it that way. You could have easily done it to where technically you didn't need all these techno mumbo jumbo and stuff like that. You could have easily done that. It did not need to be as, I wouldn't say complicated, as in-depth is a word, in-depth, because technically they go as far as to like set up the ideal that the book can be turned into a computer data program. The monsters themselves are actual data bugs that interfered with the book, that made it to where it looked like as though as if it was completely erased or something like that. And it's like, you didn't have to make it this complicated, guys. You could have had it been like, oh, there's something I forgot. Yeah, you could have done that, but you went a more complex style of the game. Admittedly, it's not as bad, but at the same time, it's like you didn't necessarily have to. And again, I would argue that you don't technically need to. Now, Birth by Sleep, it does a lot of interesting things when it comes to explaining the story. It basically is literally the backstory to how everything collided together. How everything basically molded into what became Kingdom Hearts 1 and Kingdom Hearts 2. You find out how it is that Riku is able to wield the Keyblade and how Sora could as well. You also learn how Kairi can wield the Keyblade as well. You learn who the individual Organization 13 members are up to like Organization member 8. So it's like you basically know half of the Organization members' backstory. So admittedly, Birth by Sleep is an interesting series. You probably don't necessarily have to, but it's an interesting backstory to understand what's going on and how Kingdom Hearts became to be. This is fine. I was actually perfectly fine with. But then you have Dream Drop Distance. And what Dream Drop Distance does is that it revives the ideal of Master Xehanort coming back. And it's one thing where you say, okay, the Heartless is destroyed and the Nobody's destroyed. By doing that, you bring the whole person together again. That's okay. I'm okay with that. That's not a problem. It is a problem when you consider the ideal concept of time manipulation. We're talking taking something from the past and bringing it to the future. And then all of a sudden having this complicated story that revolves around itself to a point to where I literally had to pace myself just to explain the ideal concept of how it works. And the problem is that they don't do a good job of explaining this. They don't. They just make it as though as if it's just mumbo jumbo techno crap. And it didn't have to be. You could have had it to where Xehanort has the ability to come back to life, and he has the ability to kind of bring people of the previous past to bring them all together in illusionary forms. And you can also argue with the fact that technically he did what technically Lord Voldemort did, which is to separate his soul, which in Xehanort's case, he separated his heart into 12 other cells. That could be arguably done. This didn't have to be that complicated. But the moment you implemented time manipulation, you decided to do that, and that's whenever everybody shit themselves. And trust me, like I said, you could still argue with the fact that you technically did not have to play through all of the individual Kingdom Hearts game just to get the main story of Kingdom Hearts 3. You would just have to play Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2. But all the trailers that involve Kingdom Hearts 3 says otherwise. Everything that's been going on in Kingdom Hearts 3 in terms of trailer of what we have seen, that says differently. Even the cover of Kingdom Hearts 3 says otherwise. It basically says, if you have not played every Kingdom Hearts game up to Kingdom Hearts 3, you're probably going to be confused. And that what scares me. Thank goodness the entire community of Kingdom Hearts is as friendly as it should be. I admit there are some toxic people when it comes to Kingdom Hearts, but they're very minimum. They are like the minimum amount of people that you will see. And these are more or less like extreme people, like people who say that, oh, I've completed Kingdom Hearts in the hardest difficulty in the shortest amount of time possible, and stuff like that. Technically, if you're like me and you look at that stuff and you're like, that's fine. I'm not going to be able to do that anytime soon, so it's like, you know what? You take that pride, I'm just playing the games. It's not that bad of a deal then. It's not. So it's like, okay, fine. This is okay. As for the rest of the community is basically one giant Sora blanket. It's goofy, it's funny, it likes to have fun, it wants to make new friends and everything. And it's like, in all honesty, Kingdom Hearts community is probably like the best community to be in. Because you have like two different sides. You have the Final Fantasy aspects, you have the Disney aspects, you have the main game specs. You have people who loves to make jokes about the entire series. You have people who likes to make jokes out of the Disney series and Final Fantasy series. It's a diversified community, and they get together and they kind of just collide with each other, you know? I would argue that because of Kingdom Hearts, people have a chance to play other games and kind of branch out from their safety zone, you know? If it wasn't for Kingdom Hearts, I probably would never have played Final Fantasy that I have been. I probably would never have tried to get into The World Ends With You because it looked like Kingdom Hearts, even though it wasn't. But it became part of Kingdom Hearts, so technically it is Kingdom Hearts when you think about it. But it's because of how it's made itself into what it is, and it basically is a 15, 16, soon to be 17 and 18 when you think about it. 18 years of like the entire community finally getting together, and I don't think it's any better than what it is right now. It's like the best that it could possibly be, and I absolutely love it. Admittedly, I will admit that there are times whenever we might be getting a little bit over our heads at times, but those can be easily brushed away. Really, they can be. The hardest thing is that, well, with all the Kingdom Hearts 3 trailers we have seen, we have to literally block it to where we don't get spoilers. That's the bad thing. And that's the second thing I want to go ahead and kind of talk about, is that the potential spoiling of Kingdom Hearts 3. Now, I won't go into details and I'm not going to show you anything, but there was a particular event at the Tokyo Game Show where they revealed something in regards to Kingdom Hearts 3. Now, again, I'm not going to reveal it or talk about it if you have not been spoiled, and I would please urge people not to spoil it in the comments below, even though that might be hard to do considering that it's already been on the internet by now. But there was something that was spoiled to a point to where even I would have to go, okay, Square, you kind of need to stop. Like, seriously, you need to stop. This is insane. And we're not talking like Filthy Frank's, this is cancer, this needs to stop type thing. No, this is, Square, you need to calm down and think what you're doing. You literally need to think of what you're doing. This is dangerous. You could potentially hurt Kingdom Hearts 3 by revealing this much. Now, admittedly, depending on how they do the story, maybe it won't be that effective. Maybe they already had all this planned and stuff like this. You gotta remember, as a company, they also know how to deliver to where it's not going to spoil everything, but at the same time, they know how to lure audiences. But in the past few years, for like movies and stuff like that, whenever there's a trailer or something, people felt like, I think I've got the majority of what the movie's going to be telling, and technically I probably wouldn't have to go see it. And for some people, they were right. That's the sad thing, is that we've seen so many movie tropes and game tropes and stuff like that, that we feel like as if that we already are exposed to all of this. So it's like, do we even need trailers? You know, we could just have a poster, and that would be it, you know? Because, I mean, you think about it, you got, like, freaking Marvel and DC fans, you have video game fans and stuff like that. We don't really need any major video trailer to show, hey, it's being made, and then that's it, you know? And then you could just release a trailer saying, okay, here's when it gets released. That's all you should do. And I think it's because of how the Kingdom Hearts fan base had been, like, thirsty for Kingdom Hearts news and stuff like that. And so, basically, they decided to make a shit ton of trailers, and then we got to where we're at now. So, imagine, if you will, it's one thing to have story elements being revealed and stuff like that. It's another thing to have revelations of certain bosses being revealed. Now, there were some bosses that we were like, okay, we kind of figured that was going to happen. Okay, we kind of figured that was going to happen. And then it was like a story element that kind of spoiled everything. So, depending on how they do this and everything like that, I don't think they can fix what they just did. I think they revealed a little bit too much. Arguably and mythfully, they could have done things a little bit better. It was kind of cool to see the Japanese voice actors for Sora and Aqua, but at the same time, I felt like they kind of, like, did a little too much for that event. Then again, they had a 50-minute, presentation, so it's like, you have a lot of time to work with. But yeah, I just hope that they didn't reveal too much to where it kind of hurt the series. There is, however, one other thing, and it's a small thing, I will admit, it's a small thing, and honestly, I would never have thought about this until me and Delmar played through Dream Drop Distance. Now, when we started playing through Dream Drop Distance, Delmar felt a little overwhelmed. And I would admit that he's probably right, you know. Right off the bat, you have new components and new controls that you didn't even know could exist in a game. You have the flow motion controls, you have the Dream Eaters themselves, you have the ability to use the Dream Eaters, either one at a time or combining them together. You have the fact that you have the drop gauge, and you have the fact that you control two different characters and stuff, and yeah, I would agree that that was a little bit overwhelming for some people. Then again, considering the fact that I played through Burst by Sleep and stuff like that, I didn't really take that into consideration. I figured, you know, it's like an extra spell or an extra ability you can do. I didn't really consider that, yeah, that's a lot to take in just a short amount of time, you know? We're talking about gameplay exploration here. There is a lot to do when it comes to Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance, and I didn't even consider that being the fact that, yeah, there is actually a lot at stake when it comes to it. And for some people, this may discourage them, that they got so overwhelmed that they just stopped playing the game entirely. You know, they have a field of arsenal. Now, for some people, having a huge arsenal of different abilities and stuff is a good thing. That means the gameplay is never going to be stale. And I would agree. You can play through Kingdom Hearts a number of ways and still have something to work with, you know. You can either do straight out combat, which I've done for years. You can do straight out spell casting, which I've done. You can do different summons, you can do different abilities, different combinations and stuff. You don't necessarily have to use everything because it is a choice, but at the same time, it's nice to see all these different features that you can use yourself in the process of it all. And I would argue that Kingdom Hearts 3 looks incredibly fun. It looks so entertaining. You have these different flow motion ride mechanics that you can actually activate throughout the game. You have the drive forms that are making a comeback, including the ability of weapon transformation. You can hold up to 3 Keyblades, for crying out loud. We are talking like a wide range of different stuff that you can do in combat, and it is so amazing. But for some Kingdom Hearts fans, this might be a little bit overwhelming for them. It just might be, you know? And then you also have the fact that this is the first time that Kingdom Hearts has ever entered in the next-gen console. You know, I mean, keep in mind, Kingdom Hearts has always had the same graphic tone style in general. It's always had the same style. And then ever since 0.2, we've had this graphic enhancement. And admittedly, it looks wonderful. It looks amazing. Record though, admittedly from the start of it all, they've had their rough patches. They've had a rough time trying to change gears because they were doing it on one engine, but then decided to scrap it and put it onto the Unreal Engine 4. They were like, okay, we kind of need to evolve our invention, let's just put it on the Unreal Engine 4. And they've been doing a lot of work. I mean, thanks to all the different trailers we have seen some improvements when it comes to character model designs. And trust me whenever I say this, the whole meme of the Terra thing, that's real. That is very real. The first image was actually taken at a E3 event, if I'm not mistaken. An E3 event. And the image of what Terra looked like before 0.2's official release, he looked it very, very off. We're talking like very... If you thought that the trailer, the original early trailer back when PlayStation 3 first came out for Final Fantasy VII, where Cloud had that square nose and everything like that, if you thought that was bad, this was bad. This was very bad. But then by the time 0.2 came out, Terra's face was perfectly fine, everything was perfectly well and ordered, and it seemed like they knew what they were doing. So it's like, you know what? This actually worked out well to its advantage. And due to the development and everything like that of Kingdom Hearts 3, they've improved a lot. They have changed a lot. So to see all of these trailers, I don't know if it's a major spoiler, but rather to see the build-up for how Kingdom Hearts 3 is going to look. I think, really in all honesty, I think this was like an eye-opener for how the development cycle actually works when it comes to a video game. It does take an extensive amount of time, and depending on the game, depends on how long it may take. You know, for some games, it may have taken a lot longer, but they only revealed it at a certain point in time. So imagine them revealing Kingdom Hearts 3 back in like 2015 rather than 2013. We probably wouldn't be waiting nearly as long, but then at the same time, we probably would have been just as desperate for information as we were as of right now, but we wouldn't have nearly waited as long as we did. And admittedly, even some people in the development team have argued with the fact that they may have revealed Kingdom Hearts 3 a little bit too soon. Keep in mind, I think the time that they were starting the development of Kingdom Hearts 3 was literally shortly before they revealed that they were working on Kingdom Hearts 3. I was following this continuously, religiously, just to see how far in development it was going. And it took them, like, I want to say a year for planning, only planning. And then another year just to, like, build the engine in the way they want to use it. And then from then on out, they just developed it as it goes. They made the character models, they developed the worlds, and then from then on out, they just did some fine tweaking and fine tuning in terms of atmosphere, in terms of how the gameplay should run and stuff. I think because of those trailers, we now have a better understanding of how the gaming industry actually works and how much work has to be put into just to make a game look as good as it does. Even nowadays, you know, with the fact that we now have the ability to produce up to 4K and even now up to 8K, which, by the way, you still do not need an 8K television. People are saying that right now. You do not need an 8K television. We are nowhere close to being able to do shit like that. And I will argue with that. We cannot do it. It's impossible right now. But anyway, though, I hope that all of these things that I have said doesn't really discourage you, but rather keep your anticipation lower to where you're not going to feel as if that you... I guess the term that I'm trying to say is, you won't feel as if you were cheated, per se. You know, it's like I said earlier before, there was a bunch of people who thought that it was like 12 years, when in reality, when you think about it, it's either been up to 2 or 4 years since the last Kingdom Hearts entry has been updated. You know, you have 0.2 and then you've got Dream Drop Distance. So it's like, there's been only that many years. It hasn't been nearly as long as what they themselves have thought. if they had done a little bit more research, they probably would have had an idea that, hey, there was a multitude of games. And in all honesty, if they would have done their work like everyone else would have done, like go on Wikipedia or something like that, they would have found the information relatively quickly. Like, very quickly. Then again, Wikipedia is actually a website where everyone can custom make the website itself and change everything entirely. And so I think it's because of that that people are like, I don't know how much of this is true. But yeah. Anyways, guys, this is just a thought. I want to go ahead and start a new series and a new segment. I hope you enjoy the series that I'm going to be putting together and stuff. Originally, I was wanting to do a special weekly podcast involving Kingdom Hearts 3, but then I was like, that's a lot of videos to do for Kingdom Hearts in general, so I figured, you know what, let's just launch a new mini-series, a new series that will stay continuously, and it's a Just a Thought series. So this is BlackCross, Just a Thought, and hope to see you in the next video. Till then, this is BlackCross signing off. Catch you guys later.